investment exposure, quite often you would not like to use your main company to go in, but rather below your main company you form a SPV, an investment company. And using that, only you go into China or elsewhere. And of course, last time, some of the tax advisor advice is that you also facilitate when you need to dispose of the investment. You don't have to sell the shares in China, but you sell your investment vehicle. But it looks like under this, what I call the latest development, this no longer works, yeah? So I'm not sure whether, Charles, you want to comment further on that, in future, does it mean that when, let's say, Singaporean companies, we go into China, we should forget about using an investment holding company? Or is there any other better way that in case one day we sell the investment and we make a profit here, we don't have to pay tax in China?
Thank you, Ms. Lin. As Ms. Lin just mentioned, yes, in China, the anti-tax or avoidance practice seem to be tightened compared with the years when the new corporate income tax law came into effect. Then, as for the holding structure, especially with the Singapore company, we would like to suggest the several points need to be considered. First, the intermediate company in Singapore or any other jurisdictions in the world may need to form the substance. That means the intermediate company needs to be the operating activities. It also need to have the employees. Also, they need to have the liabilities and the assets, etc. So this is the first alternative for us to consider. If the substance could not be formed, it might not be necessary to consider how to include the tax exposures into the transaction. For example, if a Singapore company would like to buy a company in China by M&A, when designing the purchase model or the pricing model, the tax exposures need to be included into it. Or only that you can bear the risks accompanied with the tax exposures, the deal could be made. The third issue in relation to this is that it is not encouraged to assume that the tax authorities in China don't know the transactions occurred overseas. Through the Xinjiang case, Chongqing case, and Jiangsu case, we understand that the tax authority in China are investigating the transactions overseas by their own means. In some of the cases, they learned the news via the public information sources, like internet. And in some other cases, they were aware of the transaction information via the international tax information exchange. Nowadays, the China tax authorities strengthened the scope of the international tax information exchange, and millions of information came to the tax authority, especially to the state administration or taxation, the ultimate tax authorities in China. That's what I considered.
Thank you, Charles. Actually, what Charles mentioned is also quite relevant. There's another latest development I'd like to share with you. Is that, as all of us know, between Singapore and China, there's a DTA. And because of the DTA, all along we were under the impression that if the Singapore holding company were to receive dividends from China, your withholding tax on dividends, that means the China tax on dividends should reduce from 10% to 5%, right? So this is understanding. But now China seems to take the stand. In fact, they come out interpretation paper or something like that by the tax authority, such that if the overseas investment holding company is a pure investment company, that's to say a company without employees, without other business activities, but purely holding the investment, then they will say that you have this structure because you are trying to avoid their dividend on tax. And therefore, they will exercise their rights under this ruling or interpretation, such that they will disregard your tax benefits under the DTA, and they will tax your dividend at 10%. And that already happened to some of the Singapore companies. So I think what Charles advised is quite useful in two aspects. Your holding company should not be a pure investment company. Then you can avoid a situation where they refuse to let you have the 5% withholding tax. And secondly, also when you sell the company, I think you stand a better chance that you are saying that I'm selling a Singapore companies, besides investment, I have other things. Yeah? So I'm not trying to evade or avoid your tax. So I think this one is quite useful for us to bear in mind. And what Charles said is quite true. In fact, China is quite sophisticated now. In all the mature market, if you are Lisco, when you buy and sell a subsidiary, definitely have to do an announcement. They'll pick up all those, and then they start matching to their info, see whether they can go after you. So there are many ways they can get info. Yeah, so do be mindful. Let's open the question to the floor. Yeah, can you give her the mic?
This question is for Mr. Gong, right? Charles. You have one of your slides talking about corporate income tax deferral for corporate reorganization. I really just want you to further elaborate, because you cited 6 types of corporate reorganization. Do you mean that if a corporate reorganize under any of these reasons, and your corporate income tax can be deferred?
Thank you for the question. Actually, due to the time limitation of my presentation, we give only some high-level comments in terms of the corporate reorganization. Sorry. From the China tax perspective, the corporate reorganization could be clarified as asset deal and equity deal. This is a basic clarification for the corporate reorganization. Although from the asset deal and equity deal, the change of legal form, debt restructuring, share acquisition, asset acquisition, merger and demerger are derived from the 2 basic concepts. As for corporate reorganization, certain conditions need to be met in order to enjoy the special CIT treatment. Basically, there are totally 5 conditions need to be met. The first condition is that the equity or assets transferred need to account for no less than 75% of the total equity or assets. This is the hard line of 75%. The second condition is that the non-equity consideration should be accounted for less than 15% of the total consideration. In another way, we can say the equity consideration should account for 85% of the total consideration. You see, non-equity consideration 15%, equity consideration 85%. The third conditions is that the reorganization need to have business and commercial purposes. If a transaction is carried out only under the purposes of tax, the special CIT treatment could be denied. The